so much for joining us for this information session. Thank you for those who were able to adjust. I know the time change was last minute, so we really appreciate it, and just appreciate everyone coming to learn more about the Food Council and a few of our upcoming programs and what's going on with us as we kind of shift towards the end of the year. So if everyone could introduce themselves in the chat, that'd be great. And then I just have a few quick updates, and I will pass it over to Michelle to get started. My first update is just a reminder, our community calls for this month have been canceled for advocacy for childhood hunger, or excuse me, for advocacy for, am I having these right? Michelle, remind me if I'm mixing one.
Food security, community
Food
call.
security.
Yeah.
There you go. And those have been canceled for the month of August, for just the summer being what the summer is. And then I also wanted to give a plug/reminder for our event last week, because I see Mike is on next Thursday on the 17th at Baby Cat Brewery in Kensington. We'll be hosting a Food Council happy hour with drinks sponsored by the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Co-op. And we're really excited to have both the TPSS speaking, as well as Heather from the Office of Food System Resilience will also be there to share some words, and we'll have an opportunity to have a tour of the brewery as well. So we are really excited to see some folks there. We will have some reminder emails going about that for the end of the week as well. So you can be on the lookout for those if you missed anything prior. So thank you all so much. And I'm going to pass it over to Michelle.
Jack, before you pass it, do you want to say hi, introduce yourself, just in case?
Oh yeah, of course. If anyone
doesn't
doesn't know me, Jack Ewert, I'm on staff here at the Montgomery County Food Council. I work on our policy and advocacy stuff with Michelle. I also work on community outreach with the whole team, and then I'm now working on our council member program. So if at any point during this presentation, when I share out follow-up recordings or whatever, if there are any questions about our Food Council program, you can direct them towards me. I will make sure I put my email in the chat, and I'm happy to answer those questions as we go through. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think we're going to keep this meeting moving. So thank you all for introducing yourselves in the chat, including staff. Really appreciate it. We are having this meeting to just provide more information about our council member program, as well as our policy priority process. We are recording the meeting, and we will be sharing out this call in 2 different segments for the audiences that are just interested in one or the other. So if you're really here for the Food Council program, you don't care so much about our policy priority process, feel free to drop off. We will send you a recording later if that's something that you want to look at, and vice versa if folks join us in the middle of the call. I think Jack is going to drop an agenda into the chat in a minute, and then I will go ahead and kick us off with an overview of our council member program. I'm thrilled we have Monica with us, who's going to share a little bit more information about her experience as a Food Council council member. I'll provide a quick plug that before I was on staff, I was also a Food Council council member. And so I kind of bring both of those experiences to this conversation and this call. And I'm happy to, like Jack said, we're both happy to answer any questions. And I know Monica will share some more about her experience and then take any questions that folks might have as well. So Jack, do you want me to share the slides, or do you want to? Great. So I'll just share a little bit of information about the council member program, and then at the end of a few slides, I will pass over to Monica to share a few minutes of her perspective. So Jack, next slide. So here's our mission and vision. You can read them yourself later. One thing I will point out is that, because we represent the entire food system within the Food Council, we do look for council members and board members that have a variety of areas of expertise so that we are well balanced across those food system issue areas in which we work. So that's just something to keep in mind as we're looking at who our applicants are and where there are gaps in expertise on our council. That is one factor that we're looking at when we are making new council member and board member selection. If you've been to our website recently, you may have seen that we have a brand new strategic plan. This is actually the first strategic plan that our organization has ever created. It's a big next step in our growth, and we're really excited about it. These are the main outcomes that we're trying to achieve in the next 3 years that came out of that strategic planning process. So this is really where we as a staff are trying to go and where we rely on our council members and our board members to help us get there. So, these are our big goals for the next 2.5 years now, because the plan was just launched. And I'll just highlight, a couple. So if I'm looking at the top, so building networks, we're really relying on our food council members and board members to help us with that. So, there are 25 council members that, serve 2-year terms, that support staff and serve in a variety of leadership roles, which we'll get to in a minute. But they are a key part of building those networks across the food system. It doesn't just come from the staff. We really rely on all of our partners, our council members, our board members, our community advisory board members to help us, with each of these components. And then I'll just talk a little bit about down at the bottom, when we're talking about strengthening food systems knowledge, we're relying on our council members and board members for that, as well as building our diverse leadership capacity throughout the food system issue areas. So we really do see this as a joint effort. It's not just coming from staff, but it's also coming from all of our stakeholders. And when I talk about our internal stakeholders, I am including our council members and board members in that description. So when we talk about us working as a council internally, we're talking about all of those groups and all of those people that bring their unique perspective and expertise to our work. Next slide. Thanks. So the way the council collaborates with our work is both internal and public facing. So on the left side of this slide, everything on the left side is more internal. So some council members participate in our policy committee, our racial equity action committee, as well as our alumni circle. Our alumni circle, after council members have served their 2 or 4-year terms, depending on, if they choose to extend for a second 2-year term, they have the option of joining our alumni circle, which is just a way to continue to stay engaged in our work and participate with other food council members and former food council members. And then we also have our internal committees, development and communications. We have a nominating committee. Those are the folks that are working with Jack through this process of reviewing applications and interviewing potential food council members that we'll be doing in the next couple months. We also convene council members and board members ad hoc to participate in certain special events. Last year, we had a big 10th anniversary party, so we created a committee to help us plan that. Every year we have a state legislator breakfast, so we convene folks within our council and board to help us plan that event as well. We also have our community advisory board, which consists of people with lived experience with food insecurity who help advise our work and are paid for their time participating and providing our staff and organization with their expertise and advice. So that program is actually separate from the council program, but we are in this process of revisioning what that program looks like and finding more ways for the council members and the community advisory board members to intersect and interact so that they're not like separate siloed programs within our organization, but that we do have opportunities to collaborate more across all of these different areas. And then council members also participate and board members participate a lot and provide leadership to our collaborative convenings. These are opportunities for members of the public to engage in our work and participate in us thinking about solving food system problems from a variety of perspectives. And council, we really lean on council and board members to provide leadership to a lot of these groups. So we will have meetings in between the public meetings to plan out where this particular group is going, where we anticipate opportunities to come up, what speakers we might want to invite, which field trips or site visits we might want to go on. So we really utilize our council's expertise and board member expertise in that way as well. Next slide. Here's a photo of a group of us at a farm, which was a great tour. Go ahead, next slide. So what we've heard from council members over the years is that they find that this experience expands their professional network, They have more awareness of what's going on in the food system as a result of their participation with the council. They feel that they have an opportunity to contribute more to the local food system at a local level. And they hear about best practices going on, not only locally, but across the state and the country that our council might be working on. They describe it as very personally meaningful, which we feel happy to hear. But also, we hear from them that they get out what they put in. So, I think we have a variety of levels of engagement across our council. And we find that the council members that tend to get the most out of their experience are the ones that are able to engage with us more. And so that is just something to think about as, if you're a prospective council member and you're interested in applying, just something to consider as you are moving through that application process. Next slide. So in 2023, the main ways, that the council participate in our work. So we do have internal meetings. These recently went from virtual during the pandemic. In 2023, we went back to in-person meetings. They're about every other month. They are on site. They rotate to different unique food system sites in our community that we feel might serve an educational purpose to the council and staff. So for example, our last meeting was at the Agricultural History Farm Park, where we learned more about the Office of Agriculture and their work, as well as a food council project to bring cold storage to that facility. And then we had our internal meeting in the conference space at that site. We also have special events. So for example, some food council members and board members were invited to participate on a special tour of the agricultural reserve within Montgomery County with the Office of Agriculture and with several members of county council, as well as the Office of Food System Resilience. So we were able to host that tour in partnership with the county and, just have an experiential learning opportunity to learn more about the agricultural reserve, the types of farmers that are in that space, the opportunities and challenges that having that unique space in our county brings, and get to ask questions of the people that are actually doing that work on the ground, which was great. And then also there's lots of leadership opportunities for council and board members in our work. So like I mentioned before, there are leadership groups for all of our sort of more public convenings and a lot of our initiatives. And oftentimes we will create ad hoc groups with our council and board members that are interested or have experience to advise us on certain things. We also have the internal committees that I mentioned. We'll often bring council members or board members that have specific experiences into our engagements with elected officials and policymakers if we're going to talk specifically about an issue area that they might have experience in, if that makes sense. We do have council co-chairs now. So our food council has 2 co-chairs that help plan those internal meetings and think through the council member program and how to make it most advantageous, not just for food council staff, but also for council members as well. And then obviously we invite all of our council and board members to engage in our working groups or collaboratives as much as they're able and as much as they're interested. And then I think I wanted to highlight this one area because I don't think we talk about it enough, but we as staff, we can only do so much and we can only know so much about what's going on in the food system at the local, state, or regional level. And so we do rely a lot on our council members' expertise. I have several folks in my phone that I text with specific questions about the policy space as it relates to the environment, for example, because I come from a public health background. That's not my area of expertise, but because I lead our policy and advocacy work, it's really important that I'm advised by folks that do have that expertise. So I think there are different instances that all the staff could point to where we do rely very heavily on our council members and board members to weigh in on what we're working on and provide us with insights and expertise where appropriate. So just real quick, the application timeline. So applications for our board and council are due September 1st. Then there is an interview process. Interviews will take place between October 2nd and October 20th. The nominating committee is coordinating those interviews and will be the one sitting in on those interviews as well as assigned staff. And then we will create offers for candidates that the nominating committee chooses to select by November 13th. Then for new members that are selected, there will be an usually in-person orientation in mid-December. And then the entire council convenes for a one-day retreat in mid to late January. So that happens every year. Thank you, Massa, for dropping that in the chat. So now we can stop screen sharing and we have the opportunity to hear from one of our current council members, Monica. So I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here and for inviting me in to talk a little bit about my experience. My name is Monica Goldberg. I work for the Department of Health and Human Services for Montgomery County. I'm a program manager with the Department of the Office of Community Affairs and Community Action Agency, and I'm also a council member. Just to start you off with a little bit of background of how I kind of joined with the Food Council. I actually started really with the beginning of my career in the county volunteering at SNAP outreaches. So there was a summer SNAP outreach program where we would go into the community that was organized by the Food Council, where I went and I was doing SNAP applications with them. It really started off our bond there. And as my career kind of grew and I became more and more involved, it was just kind of a natural progression for me to join as a Food Council member and see how else I could benefit not only from their knowledge, but also from the connections that I would be able to make, but also to see what I could bring to the table. And I think for me, if you're kind of worried about like, oh, what could I bring? Because I know that was a huge concern for me. I was a little bit younger in my career and was doing a lot of varied work within the department. And I was wondering, like, what was I going to bring to the table with these wonderful people who are already doing so much policy work, who are doing so much advocacy work, like where could I fit? And I found that really having that county perspective and that county connection and just bridging that gap there was something that was really valuable, not only for them, but also for me. So for me, really, I ended up feeling like I really had a place here and like my opinions and my input were really valid. So I think that if anyone is prospective and wanting to join or feels like maybe this isn't the right place for you, like please think again, because that's really just your worst intentions being like, no, this isn't for you. But it is so valuable to have outside perspectives from different people who are in different positions, whether that's government or nonprofit, your expertise, because we really are experts in our work, right? We all strive to be the best at what we're doing. So just know that you will be a valuable member, and that's just the most that I can tell you guys about for the perspective of kind of what to expect when you're applying. But really, I've gained so much experience and so many connections and been able to network and make so many wonderful partnerships with my partnership with the Food Council, not only with my own department and growing our reach within the county. So a little bit of background of what my department does. We help people connect with county services. We're called navigators. And you can imagine that would also be a resource really important for the Food Council. So we've been able to extend our reach to not only where our locations are, but across the county, because the Food Council connects with all of Montgomery County. So that was a really important connection. But also it was about meeting with people who are in the healthcare industry, right? Who are in the diaper distribution. My department recently got a diaper grant. We have no idea what to do with it, but we have a diaper. We work with DC Diaper Grant. We have someone who's involved there. And so I was able to kind of pick their brain on what a pallet size is, right? That's not something that you really know, but because of my time here and getting to meet so many people and their varied work, I was able to reach out to someone without having any hesitation, knowing that we're in this work together, and be able to really benefit from that partner. And now I know exactly how big a pallet is, in case you were wondering. And so that's been really, really helpful. And then lastly, I would just like to add that the work that the Food Council is doing is so very important. When you look at people who are food insecure and the struggle that they're leading, being able to be even a small part of what is fixing the problem is so huge. And just to give you a perspective, I had a client recently that was sent to us from the Food Council, and they were recently, you guys had helped them apply for SNAP. and we were able to get them rental assistance. So $400 extra a month, and we would have never connected with this person had it not been for the Food Council. I know that 400 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have a fixed income and when you're struggling to just meet ends meet, like, it was such a huge thing. So even on those little tiny things where you can make changes, like, it all leads to a bigger picture. And I guess I'll stop blathering now, and you guys can ask me questions if you have any.
Thanks so much, Monica. Does anyone have any questions for Monica or in general about the process? We knew that hosting this call during lunch meant that perhaps some folks are eating or multitasking, which is totally fine.
I
Go ahead.
can ask her. I have just kind of a general question, Monica, that I think would just be useful for people who are looking to apply and whatnot. You know, Michelle had said about how council members talk about how they kind of get out of what they're able to put in, and obviously everyone's job has different requirements and whatnot in terms of what you can put in. So I was just wondering if you could speak to like the time commitment or the commitment that outside of your work that comes with a food council membership as well.
Yeah, well, if you're already on this call, then that's already built into your job, right? So if you are already coming to these sessions and you're already sitting in here and taking that time of the day, that's really the amount of work that you're putting in, like, to be honest. While I am involved in the SNAP work group and helping to plan that, I don't feel like it's a burden on my job, because honestly, and I was fortunate enough, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys have more flexibility. So if we can do it in the county, I was able to build it into my job description. So all of the work that I do is actually built into my job now. So I'm able to make that time and that capacity. But really, I wouldn't say that I am committing over 4 hours a month, if I were being like really honest. I'm sure that there are emails back and forth, but emails are just seconds here and there. So if you're afraid of what the time commitment might look like, like I said, if you're already on this call, that's part of the time commitment. So you're already doing the work that, you know, you would be doing anyhow.
Great question, Jack. Thanks, Monica. I do want to just also mention, we do have some council members that are not always able to take time away from their 9 to 5 roles during the regular workday hours. And that is something that we have been able to work around at times, especially if that person is willing to make sure that they're able to attend our internal meetings. Then we're oftentimes able to find ad hoc opportunities for them to engage in our work in different ways, or in opportunities that happen outside of the 9 to 5 workday schedule. We're actually even revisiting hosting internal meetings in the evenings, which is something that we used to do, or switching to sometimes during the workday, sometimes in the evenings, to just allow more flexibility and more opportunities for council and board members to engage and attend in ways that fit their schedule. So Monica, thanks so much for sharing. It's great that you were able to work it into your job description. And even for those that aren't, but still want to engage in this work with us, there are ways that we can make that happen. Massa?
Yeah, I just wanted to add also that we do put out a survey at the beginning of every Food Council cohort, where we gather information from all the new incoming council members as well as the returning members, to just get a sense of people's schedules, what times they're available, what works best, areas in the county that are most convenient, areas of interest. As Michelle said, there are so many different ways that council members can be involved, and we really try to work with everybody individually to figure out, you know, what works best with each person's particular area of expertise and interest, and then also broadly with the council members as a whole in terms of scheduling and timing. So we do our best to make it not a huge lift, but something, again, like Michelle said, that's beneficial both for the council members as well as for the Food Council itself.
Thanks, Massa. Great point. Does anyone else have a question? I will pause. Okay, with that, I think we are concluding our council and board member part of today's info session and pivot